What's up, everybody? It's Greg with Delta, and this is the Be the Difference podcast. This podcast is all about making you a better person in your life and in your business with coaching on sales, leadership, mindset, marketing, everything under the sun when it comes to being an entrepreneur. And we bring on guest speakers. Today, I got the honor and pleasure of welcoming Mr. J.M. Ryerson. J.M., how you doing, brother?
Brother, I'm blessed and good to see you again. You were just on my show and crushed it, so I'm very appreciative to be on yours.
Yeah, man, it was a good podcast. This is going to be a fun one just because the conversation that JM and I had on his podcast, there was a lot of synergy there. So I think this one's going to get a little wild. I like it. I'm excited.
But yeah, it flowed so easily, and obviously your story is pretty remarkable. It's not hard to have a good podcast when you dive into that story, brother. So I was just there saying, hey man, let him do his thing, and you crushed it. So
I appreciate that. For those of you that don't know who JM is, JM Ryerson is an international speaker, mindset and business coach, host of the Let's Go Win podcast. Go check it out. And best-selling author of Let's Go Win, The Keys to Living Your Best Life. JM helps high-performing leaders define and execute their individual styles in order to grow and impact and profit in their business. His passion is to help others succeed at work, at home, and in life by offering simple tools that provide a work-life balance. What's up, brother? I like
it. Man, it's I am passionate about what we do, as you mentioned, whether it's sales, leadership, performance, mindset. I mean, I come from that sales background. I built 3 companies in the financial service world, and then wrote this book, and then Let's Go Win just kind of exploded. And I found something I'm just so passionate about, which is helping people live their best lives. So I feel blessed literally every single day. I get to help people see more than they see in themselves, and then just kind of help guide them a little bit along the way. And I don't know if there's anything more fulfilling than that, brother, just to watch somebody go from this is as good as it can get to 10x that. And it didn't take any more energy. It just took changing the mindset. It took just changing the way we perceived ourselves. So every day I wake up and I feel very fortunate.
Yeah, I like how you're talking about how we perceive ourselves, because it really is. It's a self-realization process, right? It's the window, the mirror in which we have within ourselves and how we see ourselves. Which drives our actions, it drives our self-talk, and that has a lot of impact in the situations that happen within the real world, within like the way that life unfolds.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how many self-limiting beliefs that we inherit, right? Whether it's from mom or dad or grandma, grandpa, or whatever. At some point, we take these things on and we make them our own story. And so much of that shows up in our lives where it's like, I have a self-limiting belief around money or a self-limiting belief around relationships. Well, is that actually true, right? That's question number 1. Is it true? And most of the time, almost 100% of the time, it's not. It's a story that you've been told. It's something that you brought on and you decided, this is the label I'm going to wear, man. Like, this is who I am. But why? Why is that true? Where did that come from? Why do you believe that? And if you don't like it, can we change that story? And almost every time, Greg, the answer is going to be the story came from mom or dad or someone that influenced me greatly, even maybe before I realized it. It's not true, and I don't like the way it feels. And here's the crazy part. You can literally change tomorrow. If you decided I was shy for 36 years and you wake up birthday 37, I'm going to be the most outgoing person in the world. That is totally your decision. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't. I'm just saying it is your choice. No matter what label anyone puts on you, you get to choose how you show up every single day. So it is this wild thing when people wear this badge or this is who I am. Well, okay, cool. Do you want to be that way? No, actually, I don't like it. Cool. Let's change it. You have the power, you have the ability, and you can choose to do it. And once you realize that you have that much power, sky's the limit, man.
Oh, dude, absolutely right. Absolutely right. And when you have that self-realization, and it's almost like in the Four Agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz talks about how it's like a prison that you have within your mind, and that you just don't realize that you have the keys to the prison right there in your pocket, right? So you're sitting here living in this prison of thoughts, of assumptions, of beliefs, of promises that you live by, that were forced upon you or imposed upon you by teachers, parents, siblings, friends, whatever, that form your inner beliefs. And when you realize that, like, I don't like this, I there's another book, Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Waddle. One statement he says in there is that your desire to do something, or even desire to think something, means that you have the power within you or capability to do it, whether you're skilled at it or not. And so having that desire to be like, man, I really wish I was outgoing, that means you probably are an outgoing person, or you have the potential to be an outgoing person. You should lean into that desire and strip away that limiting belief, and then decide, hey, I'm going to be an outgoing person. Right.
Yeah, Henry Ford, one of my favorite quotes said, "Whether you think you can or can't, you're right." And it's the most simple, profound quote I've ever heard, because quite literally, there's anything that you want to accomplish, it does start up here in your mindset. That's why I'm so passionate about mindset, because the only person that can limit you is yourself. Because we have complete control of two things: our attitude and our activity. No one gets to dictate how we feel, no one but you. And what's interesting, and you and I talked a little bit on my show, people go through these relationships. They're like, oh no, my significant other, my wife, my girlfriend, they really can make me feel a certain way. They can't. You can allow them to feel a certain way, but you are making that choice.
Yeah.
And it will twist your noodle a little bit, because you're like, no, my brother knows how to push my buttons. Cool, I get it. He may know how to really dig at you, but you get to choose how you respond. And it's quite literally the reason I meditate as much as I do, is because I want to respond. I don't want to react. And the truth is, yes, my wife can, or perceive that she can push my buttons, but only I get to choose how I react. Yes, my brother knows how to do that, but I get to choose how I truly respond. So it is one of those weird things, man, where if you really train your mind, when you train yourself, you have the ability to react in any way, in any scenario. It is your choice. I'm not saying it's easy, right? Because the easy thing is just follow your emotions, because it happens so fast.
Yeah.
But you can train it. And when you do, now you're giving yourself unlimited power and potential in these relationships, in these scenarios, to not be the one out of control, to not be irrational, to not lose your temper, but rather be very intentional about what you're going to say or how you respond.
This reminds me of the coffee bean story. Have you heard the coffee bean story?
I don't know if I know the coffee bean story.
Oh, so you're like this. This is good. So there's three types of people. There's people that are carrots, there's people that are eggs, and there's people that are coffee beans. And so the world is like a boiling pot of water, with the trials and tribulations and challenges and trauma. And so when a carrot, before it gets put into the world, is hard. And then what happens to the carrot when it gets put into the boiling water? It gets soft. And that's how some people are. Some people act really tough, they act really hard, and then when they get challenged, when they hit opposition, they crumble. They get soft, they get weak, they break down. And then you have eggs. Some people are hard on the outside, but they're soft on the inside. And then when they get put into the water, their insides harden. And that happens to some people. They get put into a difficult situation, it hardens their heart, and they become jaded, and they become upset, right? And then they have this negative outlook. And then you have coffee beans. And before the coffee bean's just a normal coffee bean. You put it in the water, what happens? Coffee bean doesn't change. Instead, it changes the environment around it. It turns the water to coffee. And so you have some people that they don't react, they respond. And they respond based on changing the environment to making it better. So they do that through positivity, and they do by four things. It's you can only control four things in life. You can control what you think, you control what you feel, control what you say, and you control what you do. And too often we lay the blame at other people of like, oh, well, that person cut me off. And then now you're blowing on your horn and flipping them off. And it's just like, okay, but you're blowing your horn and flipping them off, right? So, but they cut me off. Okay, but you still decided to like they didn't come and take your hand and put it on and then unfold your middle finger and stick it out. Like you decided to do that. And too often people they they release the four things, the four simple things that we have control over. They release those because they're trying to control other people. And that's what it is. You're trying to control too many circumstances around you instead of just controlling yourself. And what you find is there's freedom in that because by controlling yourself, you change the environment automatically changes around you because people see that you're different and they become more positive.
Yeah, so my son and I were actually just talking about this story not long ago. He didn't say it was a coffee bean story. So the moment you gave me the three examples, I'm like, oh yeah.
Okay.
Here's what I think trips people up, and I understand it. The feel part, because emotions happen so ridiculous fast. You can't stop that happening, right? It's physically impossible. It goes like I'll snap my fingers and it's a million times faster that emotion travels to your brain and you start this reaction part. And I think that's where people are like, BS, I can't stop that. But the truth is you can when you learn to control it. You cannot stop it happening physiologically.
Yeah,
tough word for me on a Friday. You can't stop it physically in your body from doing it that fast. But what you do have the control and power and you have the choice is what you do with it. Now, here's the other thing. You're going to make mistakes. I had a lady the other day. I'm walking the dog, okay? And she came around the corner with two big dogs, and my dog is a Basenji. It's like 20 pounds. And my dog likes dogs, so I was just trying to kind of get this way. And she got really mad. She's like, you stupid. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. Did I do something wrong? You came around the corner. I didn't see you. You should have gone to the other side of the street. She had a very heavy accent. And I was like, I'm sorry. I honestly, I didn't even see you coming. So I'm sorry you feel that way. And she just kept going at me. And there was a moment where I was ready to go, you know what? Forget you and say something. But I was like, that's just my ego talking. Because the truth is, she got scared. She had these big dogs. I didn't see her. No big deal. But she was going to let me know how stupid I was. Yeah. And I was telling my wife, I was like, man, because I know who she is and she can be a little curt. And so I definitely wanted to, respond back and be like, you know what, forget you, blah, 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 blah. But all that would have just been my ego feeding me to say, you know what, she yelled at you and she called you names. So I'm going to call you one back. And actually what I did is I just said, you know what, I'm sorry. I didn't see you there. My fault. And guess what? She said, you know what? It wasn't that big deal. I'm sorry. Versus I could have called her names and now we're in a big fight over nothing. And we see it all the time. You're talking about road rage where people are like, you cut me off. Now we're throwing fingers. Now people are cutting each other off and guns are getting pulled. It's like all because somebody may or may not have cut you off, not even really thinking of seeing you.
Yeah.
And then so it's all this ego thing that we need to learn to control. And I'm not saying it's easy. Again, this is stuff that takes work. But when you do this work, it does become a lot easier. Your life becomes a lot easier.
And what's some of the work that you do that you recommend for people to take control? Well, to recognize the signs within them when they're having those responses, stopping them in their tracks before they just immediately react and taking a moment to respond and identify like, hey, that's my ego talking. Relax. I can choose how to act here.
Great question. So there are so many amazing tools that are at your disposal because all these things are triggers, right? When somebody calls you a name, maybe that's a trigger because you don't like somebody doing that because maybe you were abused as a child or verbally abused from your spouse or whatever. So that's a trigger for you. And so figuring that out, knowing that, hey, if somebody says something, I'm ready. Now, You could box breathe, which is a simple process of breathing in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, and do nothing for 4. And Navy SEALs actually do that to calm their nervous system, right? They do it in life or death situations so that they can immediately get back in present mode. So that's something that I use. Or for me, music. If I'm having a really bad day, so let's say, I don't know, just think of something, my dog died, let's say. I don't know why dogs, I'm talking about dogs. And hopefully that doesn't happen, but that would be a tragedy. That would suck. If I wanted to feel better quickly, I would immediately throw on some of my favorite music. Now, that might be temporary, but at least I can overcome the trigger of the dog passing. Brain dumps. Literally, writing is one of my favorite forms of therapy. It costs $0, right? Basically, for paper and pen. And the pen's not going to say, hey, Jam, you're really smart, or Jam, you're a freaking idiot. It doesn't say anything. It literally just takes pen to paper, but it allows me to get this stuff out so it's not upstairs, going around, because our brains are incredibly creative. They're also incredibly destructive. And then I already mentioned, meditation. That's something that has been so beneficial for me for many, many years. And you can do it really fast when you just try to get in a moment where you're like present, you're aware of your thoughts. And instead of lashing out or verbally saying it, you're just observing. What am I saying in my head? Do I really want to say that out loud? No, I probably don't. All right, let's not feed the ego today.
Yeah. Meditation is my favorite of that and writing. I just recently started meditation, and man, transformative when you're consistent with it. Because I was one of those people like, oh no, I can't meditate. My mind races too much. I can't control my thoughts. Blah blah. Everybody's that way when you first start. Every single person's that way. It's really hard. It's like going to the gym and you got noodle arms. First time you ever been, you're like expecting to lift like everybody else there, and you got to start with like the babiest of baby weights. But there's no recovery time. There's no over fatigue. There's no you can get good at meditation as fast or as slow as you want to get there. It depends on how often you do it.
It's so crazy too, brother. And I would say for the better part of 12 years, every single day I meditate. Now, my brain still races, by the way.
Yeah.
Right. I am not enlightened. I'm not some Buddhist monk that can, freeze ice just with my thoughts. I can do it pretty well. But the truth is, meditation is just being aware of your thoughts, being mindful of what you're doing. And I think that's where people get tripped up, where they're like, I'm not any good at it. My mom says it all the time. And I'm like, Mom, if you're observing your thoughts, you're literally doing it. You're putting this judgment on, I'm good at it or I'm bad at it, when the truth is, all the studies are showing is just take time to do it. There's so many health benefits, and there's so much beneficial information on meditation at this point. It used to be that woo-woo thing from, that's Eastern studies. There's nothing really there. We're way past that, man. The genie's out of the bottle. Like, it is clearly good for you. And don't judge yourself. Just take the time to observe your thoughts, be with them, and you're going to find how much better you feel when you do it.
Absolutely. One trick I have people do is a lot of times, our like you were saying, our minds are incredibly creative, especially when you're going over past situations, or you're dwelling on a situation maybe you have guilt from, or you're angry about, or hurt. And your mind it stays in that loop, and it starts to see other things like, oh, well, I saw this happen, and oh, and then there's also this, I bet they're doing this. And it's just like, it just spirals with all these crazy thoughts, and it's all centered on this one thought that is continuing to cycle in your thoughts. And so, what we have to realize is that is our ego that's keeping us in that position. And we're what we're doing is we're losing out on the present moment, right? Because we're living in our minds in the past. And so what I tell a lot of my clients before coaching is that take a moment to just put yourself in your mind and act as if the thoughts that you're having is like a third party, like somebody else in your mind, and you're just watching it, and you're watching this person spout this shit off in your head. right? And you're just watching it. And as soon as you do that, you're going to realize it's going to start to die down, like it's going to go away. And then say to yourself, I wonder what my next thought will be. And just wait for that person to say something, like you're just watching, you know? And what happens is that your mind's silent. And it works for everybody. And so every single time, every person I've done it with, they're like, wow, like, because they're like, I can't control my thoughts. I can't quiet my thoughts. I was like, well, let's try this. Every single time it works. And they're like, I'm like, what's your thought? They're like, nothing. Exactly. So you can control your thoughts. And it's that's like that light bulb moment. They're like, oh, I can do this. Yes.
Well, and they say we have almost 60,000 thoughts every single day. So they're going to come, right? You're just fixated on this one. And, Lao Tzu had this long quote that I just took and shortened it. It's not mine. I just shortened it. Past is pain, future is anxiety, present is everything. And somebody's like, well, that's not true. My past isn't all pain. I'm like, if you're sitting there remembering about how amazing it used to be, you're saying your present moment kind of sucks. And if you're constantly thinking about how great it's going to be in the future, all these amazing things, you're now starting to create anxiety about how your present moment is. I'm not saying don't have goals. I have them too, of course. Mm-hmm. But the ability to stay present. And what you're talking about is so true, man. Like, we will create these stories in our head like, oh my God, the world's going to come to an end. And a minute later, it's bliss and everything's amazing. And zero has actually changed. Literally nothing in your physical environment has changed, only your thoughts. Right. And that's how incredibly, destructive and creative our minds are. So I love what you're telling them. It's like, hey, just what's your next thought going to be? Just wait, see what happens.
And I just want to get the initial belief that they're like, okay, I guess I can control my thoughts. Like, I can't quiet my mind. It's like, of course you can. Now it's like, okay, you just lift a 5-pound weight. Okay, now we're going to get you to consistently lift that, and I feel that when you do it, when you practice meditation, especially when you start to practice being present in the moment in your mind and like assessing your thoughts, it's like a muscle that you're working. And so when those situations happen, like with you and the woman with the dogs, you can very quickly go back to the present moment in your mind because you've been practicing it. It's just putting in the reps, right? And that's the same thing with business. Same thing. I mean, this is with anything, right? The first job I ever had that I was like really liked that I kept was a construction job. I did construction with the girlfriend in high school I had. Her dad at the time did build houses, and he was like, "Hey, come help me." He was a carpenter, and so taught me how to do carpenting. Taught me how to do like a lot of different stuff, like how to do framing and stuff like that in the house. So the first couple times that I helped him with stuff, I was terrible. Like I was really, really, really bad. But the more I did it, the better I got and the more competent I got. And then as I got to a point where he could just give me a task in a house and he wouldn't even be there. Like I would already have the tools, I already had everything go, and I could go do it all myself. And if I had any issues, I would just call him and say, hey, this isn't fitting right, or what did I mess up here? But it hardly ever happened. But if you look at when I started to that point, like there were two different people almost, right? Same thing with meditation, right? If you the first time you start, you're like, I can't control my thoughts, blah, blah, blah. Well, of course you can't. You're not trying. Well, they made me do this because they were pushing my buttons. Well, of course, because you're not controlling your thoughts. But the more you do it, the more you put in those reps, the better you get. So when those moments do happen, you're going to kick it a lot faster and be like, nah, I don't need to react.
No, it is true. And everything is a muscle, right? Like practicing courage is a muscle. It gets stronger the more you do it. Yep. Our brains are a muscle. The more you exercise them, the better they get. And here's the other thing. If you're really good at something, like, I mean, let's say you are a savant at something, oftentimes you'll notice that people will tire and bore of that very quickly because human beings like to be challenged. And my best example I give clients all the time, I'm like, have you ever mastered a video game? Well, yeah. Did you keep playing it? No, actually, I got really bored of it. Same thing. You like getting better and getting challenged and trying. And so there's one word that I use all the time, brother, with my clients, and it's literally the name of the next book that I have coming out, and it's called upgrade, because people don't like change. That's a fact. The majority of human beings don't like the word change. Now, if you go to the airport and you're sitting economy and they're like, hey, Greg, we're going to bump you to first class. Are you mad? Are you fired up about it?
Fired up.
You're 6'7", man. You're fired up. You're like, hell yeah. I am good. I am relaxed. I'm getting work done, whatever. And that's the same way with our brains. If you just, instead of trying to change it, you look at it as an upgrade. I'm going to upgrade from being in economy to first class. I can do that. Every single time we upgrade, we feel good about it.
Yeah,
people upgrade their cell phones like every single year. So we're the same thing with our bodies, our minds, our soul. You just need to replace that word change with upgrade. And now you're like, oh yeah, I like to upgrade. Upgrade's great. Change sucks, but upgrading's cool.
That's a great concept. I love that. That's really powerful, actually. How long have you been coaching for?
Well, that's 20 years in the financial service world. And then this particular company has been 3.5 years. So that's why I paused, because when I actually put I'm just a coach versus, being a CEO or whatever, COO or whatever title I was carrying back then. But officially with Let's Go Win, it's been 3.5 years.
Okay. And when it comes to like your client base, what do you find is the niche market of the people that you help? Like, I guess your client avatar of the most likely people that you are attracting or helping through whatever situation.
So my marketing firm will tell you it's business executives and professional athletes. And it's true, right? That's who I've helped, and that's who I guess has been attracted to what I do. But my first client was actually a kid that I helped lose 80 pounds, right? He came to me and his dad actually came to me and said, hey, can you work with him? And I said, yeah, I can. What are we looking to do? I'd like him to lose some weight. Well, cool. He lost 80 pounds in like 6 months, which arguably that was almost too fast. But what we also did is he upgraded so much mentally. Then I helped a professional golfer make cuts. And then now the business world has really been calling recently to say, hey, man, can you help my executive team with the mindset, the culture, performance? Yeah, I could do that. Because the truth is, Greg, my avatar is people that actually want to get better. If you want to improve your world, I'm in, man. Like, I will give you everything I have and we will do this. But if you're not committed, if you're only interested, I'm probably not the right guy for you, honestly, both from a price tag standpoint and from a results standpoint. Because I have learned one thing, brother. I've never, ever changed one person's belief in my entire life. And people be like, what are you talking about? Never once have I personally changed a belief. I may have influenced, I may have been a guide, but only they can choose to make these upgrades, right? That they can change their beliefs. And I know you probably have experienced that yourself.
I have experienced that with some of the clients that I've been able to help. And it's crazy how the physical transformation, you talked about the kid that you helped him lose 80 pounds in 6 months. But I think what was key for everyone listening is that he talks about the mental transformation that he went to, like that upgrade that he had, which is probably far greater for the rest of that kid's life. For the rest of that, like, that's going to serve him in so many ways. And what people don't realize is that the changing the body, that it's intricately linked to the mind, the confidence, the faith in yourself, the belief that you can change, upgrade, all these things, the building of discipline, right? All these things have such a greater impact on the quality of work that you do, the quality of life that you have. Man, it's really powerful. And it's so much more than physical fitness. So much more.
It's crazy. I tracked the first 10 clients because I was curious to see sort of the ancillary benefits. 6 out of the first 10 found the love of their life, and 4 of them were married within a year and a half. The first kid I was talking about literally found their soulmate. The other 3, their relationships were basically, they were going down, like on the verge of divorce, and now they're just happy as can be. The 10th one, there was no difference really in their love life one way or the other. But I found that fascinating to say, honestly, if somebody's like, what are you really good at? Well, leadership, performance, and relationships. But that was never my intention. And it's not because I'm doing anything there. It's because they are loving on themselves, as you and I talked about on my show, where it's like, you can't really love another person until you truly love yourself. I truly believe that is the case. Now, you could be in a relationship, but I'm talking about true, like, loving someone else. And once you start to put that focus on you, now you can bring really fulfilling relationships, and you can really enjoy them. And I didn't expect that, right? That wasn't my intention of coaching. My intention was help people accomplish whatever goal it was. But I've never had somebody come to me and be like, hey man, help me find the love of my life. That's not on the resume. But yet 60% of the first 10, and it kept going that way, have found that, and their relationships are so much stronger. And it's something I'm really proud of, because it wasn't my intention, but I know how important it is in our lives.
What's crazy is one of the first clients I had, he was an agent of mine. Well, he'd been watching me from the side for a long time, and he saw my transformation. He was like, "Hey, bro, like, can you help me?" I was like, "Yeah, man." So we started working together. Um, he lost like 45 pounds over about an 9-month period, but he dropped a lot of fat. He went from like a close to 18% body fat to like now he's like 6%.
Ooh.
So he's like 6, 7%. And he was chasing this girl. He wanted this girl he had a big crush on, and she would not give him the time of day. She wouldn't even talk to him. And he went back to church. He started doing all these better habits. He stopped drinking. He started focusing on his diet. He started reading daily. He started doing all these different things that was increasing his mindset, his discipline. His body was getting in better shape. And finally, one day, he had the confidence to go and court her, and they're together. And they're like, he's like, dude, she's loved my life. He's like, I would have never been able to. He was like, if I was still the same man that I was before I started working with you, never would have happened. Never would have. She would never have dated me. He's like, he had to level up. He had to upgrade. He had to become a different person and be able to attract her.
That's so good, dude. There's nothing better to watch somebody truly accomplish things that they didn't think possible. It's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, that's so powerful. So what got you into coaching? How did I see you? I mean, you said you've been coached for many, many years, outside even before you started Let's Go Win. What started that for you?
So the official one with Let's Go Win is that when I wrote the first book, the orange one above my head, it literally, that was for my kids, right? And the lady I was working with is like, man, you're selfish. And I said, what are you talking about? She said, if you only share this with 2 human beings, you're selfish. Okay, cool. So we published the book, and that was when it really hit me. Like, I'm trying to coach my kids, right? That's my intent, is for them to not skin their knees as many times.
Mhm.
And so that's when the official, like, all right, we'll actually bring clients on, and we'll take them on one-on-one or a team environment. But I think when it actually started, brother, like my love for coaching, I blew out my knee for the 3rd time in college, which my sports career was done. And so my coach actually kept me on to help with lifting weights. Well, I love helping people again transform. And so I was doing so much reading, things that other people didn't want to do. And I love to share that information. So I think it actually probably started then, the moment that I couldn't play ball anymore. And now I'm able to help people in other ways from the sideline. I think that's honestly where the coaching really started, because once I got into professional life, I was building teams. Like in the financial service world, I don't know anything about financial services. I don't. It was never an interest of me. But I know a ton about helping people perform in sales. I know how to build a team, and all of that was through, coaching and being clear on what we're trying to accomplish. So that would be my best answer.
Yeah.
So
Well, what I want to highlight here is that you had a situation that for a lot of people would have been like life ending. Like, man, I put all my eggs in the basket of basketball and going having a professional career, sports career, and now I got this injury, and I'm out. I'm done. And instead, you found another passion that serves you better, but you found another way to stay tapped in and still help serve. Instead of like in that moment, you chose to do something that was still positive instead of being like, "Oh, woe is me." I and then being the old Uncle Rico talking about old stories. Yeah, one time I caught this fly ball. I jumped 20 feet in the air, bro. You had have been there.
it is true. I mean, thank you. It is one of those things where I call it being a victim or a victor, right? In any situation, you have a choice to be a victim and how that feels. Woe is me. You feel weak. You feel like no control, all these negative emotions. Or no matter what situation happens, you can choose to be a victor. Now, for me, all of this stuff has led up to March 6th of 2022. Okay. And my dad actually, he was my hero, my best friend, or one of my best friends. We're very close. Now, he actually killed himself. And I had no idea that was even a possibility. Okay. Now, that's awful. And don't think that I woke up the next day and it's like, okay, I'm just going to be a victor. No, I mean, it took time. But what I realized is there's nothing that I don't get back up. I'm 100%, I'm undefeated getting back up the next day, no matter how bad it is.
Mm.
I'm undefeated waking up and getting back. And I wanted so badly to, woe is me. Look at how bad it is. I lost my dad. Feel sorry for me. I did, right? But I also remember all those negative emotions that are tied to being a victim, and none of them are positive, strong things that I want to feel. And so when you choose that path of I'm going to see the good no matter what happens, that's when life gets pretty amazing. I have a level of perspective after losing my dad that I couldn't buy. You couldn't find it.
Mhm.
And I'm grateful for that. Now, do I want him back every day, Greg? I want my dad. I want to talk to him. I want to hug him. I want to, see him, but I can't.
Mhm.
Therefore, I'm going to drive to help other people, whether it's mental health, whether it's living their best life, because I'm not sure how long my life is guaranteed to be on this earth. So while I'm here, I don't want to sit there and wallow and bitch and complain. I want to live the best that I can. And so it is interesting how some of these things that hit us, these really tough times, you can choose to be a victim or you can choose to be a victor. But it's, again, that word choice. It is your choice.
I like to split it up even further to like four different. So it's like the four archetypes of any story, right? You have the victim, the villain, the hero, the guide. And so you can be the victim, self-explanatory. You just went over that. With the villain and the hero, what's unique is that both of them have the same origin story. Something bad happened to them, right? That defined who they are, and then where they decide to go from that is two different paths. Where the villain is like, "This terrible thing happened to me. I'm going to pay everyone back. I'm paying the world back. I'm, you know, wreaking destruction." The hero says, "This terrible thing happened to me. I'm going to go and try to prevent it from happening to anybody else. And I'm going to try to make a situation, the world a better place." Right. And then you have the guide, which is the person that's been the hero before and multiple times. And they see other heroes and they help them along their journey, guiding them to continue to be the best hero that they can be. And so it's funny to kind of like look at that, like hearing your story. It's almost like probably you can identify in multiple times in your life how you've probably been a victim before. You've probably even been a villain before, right? Like someone flipped me off and you're like, look you, buddy. Like, and then then you have the moment of self-realization where you're like, oh man, I'm not going to do this anymore. Right. I'm actually the villain. And then you start to decide to be better and become a hero. And then you have people that are coaches like you come in and be like, there's a hero in you. I see more potential in you than you can see in yourself, but we're going to get you there. Right. And you have these guides that kind of pull you along the way. And you're so right that everyone has a choice on what they pick to be. Right. Whether they want to be the victim side or the victor side of that equation. And I think it's a blessing to hear how on your situation, hey man, is it difficult? Yes. Do heroes still stumble? Yes, absolutely. Right. It's a never ending process, it's a never ending journey. I myself, like I went through, I had this great personal development journey. I started like helping people and I'm like, man, I'm on fire. And I met a girl that was like the love of my life in 2021. And then last year in 2022, we broke up. And I was distraught. Man. It was hard on me. And I said, you know what? I'm taking this opportunity and I'm going to go back and I'm going to review everything from the relationship and see what was the small ways that I messed up. Because it wasn't like the way that relationship ended, I was kind of like a surprise to me. I just didn't think it would have. I thought it was like, oh no, we're strong, we're solid. She's not going to end it. And she was just like, hey, I can't do this anymore. So I was like, it was a huge surprise. And I was like, I'm missing something here. And so I started doing some research. I started listening to like relationship podcasts, started reading relationship books. And one of the things I figured out, is that love comes from within, not from without, right? You have to love yourself first. Okay. And it is an emotion that is like when you truly love yourself, you see love everywhere. You can give love everywhere and it's abundant. So love comes from within. And then secondly was that I was spending so much time in my business, so much time building that business that I wasn't building the relationship. I automatically assumed that she would be there. And like, there's only so much that a person can take when it comes to like a relationship. And like, there's going to be bad times. There's going to be good times. Like just wait, the storm's going to come. And as soon as the storm's here, just wait, the storm's going to pass. Right. But a person's ability to withstand those storms depends on how good the good times are and how frequent they are. And if it's a constant like storm, good time, like they may not want to stay for that. Right. They may say, hey, I want storm, good time, then storm. And so I realized that I was like, I wasn't putting in effort. Right. And I took that time to kind of review. And there was something in the back of my mind. I was like, you know what? Like, I really cared about this woman. Like I really wanted to be with her the rest of my life. And I was like, something within me was like, her and our story isn't done yet. Right. It's just not done. And so, I thought maybe a year from now, 5 years from now, who knows? But her and I are gonna run it together. It's gonna happen in God's time, right? But it'll happen. And we ended up running into each other recently. And I was like, hey, this is, we had to sit down and talk and we connected and we kind of cleared the air. And before she could even tell me all the things that had gone wrong, I told her, I was like, hey, I did this wrong. I didn't pay enough attention. I didn't date you. Like I didn't like spend time just being like getting to understand you better and like having good questions and seeing where you were. And like, I'm so focused in the business. I talk to you about business all the time. I didn't talk to you about you. And just having that very candid conversation with her, it opened up. And so we decided to to get back together. So,
hey now. I love it. Well, dude, look, you took responsibility without finger pointing, it was like, clearly I need to own my part, right? Again, that's being the victor. That's not being the victim. Wasn't what was me. I have to own what I didn't do well. Yeah. So I love that. And the other thing that you said, especially for those in the superhero thing, when you're going along and things are going great, perfection is the enemy of greatness. And you got to remember that because you're going to stumble. It's a guarantee. In fact, if you want a guarantee, just know that you're going to have good and bad. And by the way, more of your great lessons are in the bad than they are in the good. Yep. Every loss I had as an athlete, I remember I learned so much more from those losses than any win that I ever had. So every time that you get your ass kicked or something goes terrible, you just need to say thank you. And then, as you said, learn, apply, you reflect like, okay, I learned something. Now I'm going to apply it to my relationship and I'm going to reflect. What did I do well? Good, bad, and different. And you do that again and again and again.
Yep, absolutely. And, but I guess the point I was trying to make was, from the outside looking in, I'm like posting all this like positive content and reels and like I'm helping people. And it's just like, dude, I make mistakes just like the rest of y'all, man. Like I'm human too. Like I have bad times too. I was going through tough time emotionally, and how I dealt with it was I started meditating. That was one of the reasons I started meditating,
Mm,
was because my mind was just spiraling so much. And I read a book and it talked like the way that book talked about meditation and like what it did for the mind. I was like, I need that. And so I started doing it and it helped a lot. And it helped me to really look within myself and assess myself and realize that like I need to start loving myself more, right? So the heroes make up mistakes too. And
big
so
time.
don't ever think that like, oh well, I made a mistake, that okay, well, I guess I'm not a hero, or just quit or whatever. It's a process and a journey. So
So true. And
yeah.
I tell this to my wife all the time. I'm like, look, just because I know it doesn't mean that I always execute, right? We
Mhm.
learn stuff all the time and it's easier. That's the thing about coaching. It's way easier to coach someone than all yourself, because holding yourself accountable is ridiculously challenging. That's
Yes.
why every coach, before you hire a coach, by the way, I don't care who you hire, when you hire a coach, make sure that they have a coach. That's one of the first things I tell people. Ask them, who's your coach? And if they don't have one, don't hire them.
Yeah. Oh, you're absolutely right. Because they do. Everyone needs to have somebody that they're accountable to.
100%.
And that's what the coaching is all about, honestly. It's the accountability piece. If you're looking at like say fitness coaching, hey, anybody knows how to look up dieting, nutrition information. Anybody can go on Google and be like, hey, what foods do I eat, or what's the best way to calculate my macros, this, that, the other. It's all free information. Like we have so much information at our fingertips. You can find free exercise plans and just execute them every single day. Like it's not the nutrition, the exercise. What it is, it's the accountability piece, which is the third piece. And most people miss that. And that's why they'll start things like, well, I just took sugar out of my diet. Then they'll lose like 30 pounds. Then they'll go to a party. I actually had this conversation with somebody today. They'll go to a party, and while they're there, someone offers them a piece of cake. Man, then they slide backwards fast. And then they're like on a sugar binge. Next thing you know, they gain that 30 pounds back, and then they teeter-totter back and forth. Zero accountability.
Well, and the other part of that, dude, and I know you absolutely, as a coach, it's not these diets and these fads. That's never going to work, by the way. It's a lifestyle. Whatever you choose. Somebody asked me the other day, are you a life coach? And I was like, well, I understand why you would say that. If you put lifestyle coach, I would say yes. Because everything that I'm teaching and coaching it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like this is something that you're not going to do for like 30 days and then you're fixed. It's not the way the world works. You need to change your identity. That is a lifestyle change that you're going to make, and identify that way as in a positive, versus trying some fad diet, lose a bunch of weight, then gain it, and you watch the roller coaster, which that entire industry is set up for that. There's a reason they want that.
Yeah.
But a lifestyle change, a lifestyle upgrade, 100%. You can call me that all day.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. That's a great way to put it. It doesn't matter what diet you do. Doesn't matter if you're Mediterranean, doesn't matter if you're keto, doesn't matter if you're high carb, low fat, doesn't matter. What it really just matters is what fits for you that you're going to be able to maintain and do for the rest of your life. Right? That gets you results, that gets you healthy, and you can maintain for the rest of your life. And like if you can find that, it doesn't matter what. Then it's just like, hey man, calories in, calories out. You got to be able to be moving every day, eat less, drink more water, remove alcohol. Bada bing, bada boom. I don't care what your genetics are. You're going to be able to lose weight. Like
Yep.
it's going to
No
happen.
doubt.
So, if anyone's watching this, JM, and they're like, "Man, this guy is dope. I want to learn more about Let's Go Win." Where else can they find the book? Because I assume it's on that they can find on Amazon.
So yeah, both books are on Amazon or at letsgowin.com.
Okay.
I absolutely would love for people to go to Let's Go Win podcast because, as you know, you were a guest and it was a great episode. And you know what I would say? Podcast guests always at the end, they'll say, "Hey, rate and review, subscribe." Do that stuff though, because Greg has given you so much amazing information on his show. Help him out, share this with other people, and then do the same for Let's Go Win. Because I will tell you, there is really, really impactful information in both episodes.
Mhm.
And it's just, why not help somebody else out? It makes you feel better as a person. So I guess those would be the place to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last question I ask all my guests is, you have the opportunity to sit with, learn from, have a conversation with, break bread with 3 individuals, anyone in history, alive or deceased. Who would they be and why?
Viktor Frankl.
Oh, it's a good one. Actually, no one's
Nelson.
ever picked that one.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, no one's ever picked that one.
Yeah, I read his book literally every year. So Man's Search for Meaning, if you haven't read it, it's an incredibly powerful book.
Incredible.
I have so many questions for the man. I don't understand. Maybe academically I can understand when he writes, but to be in the position he was, to have the amount of faith, love, forgiveness, I want to understand that. I would say Nelson Mandela would be another one.
Great
in
leader.
some of his stories. And if you ever go to South Africa, go to Robben Island, and it'll make that much more sense. Like, amazing human being, regardless of any faults. Again, like, the man, he was a womanizer. I get it, but an incredible leader. And then lastly, it would be my dad. I have questions that I'll never have answered, but to have another dinner with him would mean the world. So those would be my 3.
I love it. Those are all 3 fantastic ones. JM, thank you so much for jumping on the podcast, bro. This has been great. I can't wait till this airs. For those of you watching, just like James said, do us a favor, man. First off, go check out his podcast, Let's Go Win. What he's doing and how he has his podcast structured is amazing. He's helping people all across the nation become better versions of themselves and just helping them to upgrade. But also, if you got anything value from this, if you learned, if you changed your perspective, if this provided value in any way, shape, or form, then you might be able to touch somebody else's life just by sharing the show, and they can get the value just by you doing that. So you never know the ripple effects that could happen from you taking 30 to 60 seconds. So we appreciate it. This has been the Be the Difference podcast. I'm your host, Greg Birch. Until next time, we'll see you.